I want to say, first of all, thank you to everyone for joining us here. My name is Jerry Shockey. I oversee the educational programs here, and appreciate you guys tuning in for this broadcast titled Heart of a Hall of Famer. It's something we just recently launched, just as recently as a couple of weeks ago, and really the purpose of this is really to show what it takes to get into the Hall of Fame beyond just athletics. Because most of our Hall of Famers, it can be said that if their God-given ability wasn't in pro football, they would have succeeded in something else at a high level, and many of them have. We have some that have gone on to become U.S. congressmen, one that's a Minnesota Supreme Court justice, several that are business owners, senior executives of businesses, some that you see on TV all the time, John Madden, Howie Long, folks like that, and the gentleman that you guys have that's connected here with you guys today, Hall of Famer Mike Haynes, who's achieved not only greatness on the field, but greatness off the field. But before I get into the introduction into Mike, I just want to say thank you to all the schools and recognize those schools that are connected with us here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. And first of all, we do have Chippewa Falls High School in Wisconsin. Thank you for being here. We have Pottsboro Middle School in Texas joining in with us as well. We have Wilbur Wright Middle School in Indiana. We have Hightower High School in Texas. We have Mountain Gap Middle School in Alabama. And then lastly, we have Lakewood High School in North Carolina. And Lakewood, we definitely appreciate you guys connecting since you had a little problem earlier as well. So I want to say thank you to all of you for connecting with us. A couple folks we need to thank that we'd be remiss if we didn't thank for making this connection possible is, first of all, the folks at the Hilton there in San Diego. Thank you for all your hard work. I think it was Roberto. Did I get the name correctly? I'm horrible with names, so thank you for your help as well. But most importantly, thank you to the folks at Kings County Office of Education. You heard us bantering back and forth. Janet Adams, Ed, and his lovely wife that's with him, Vicki. Appreciate you guys for doing this, because they traveled all the way down the coast. They took their video conferencing equipment with them, went down and pretty much right down the street from Mike Haynes and set up shop there to do this broadcast. So without the folks at Kings County, this wouldn't have been possible. So thank you to Janet and all you folks. And I encourage you guys that are tuning in, if you guys go to Kings County Office of Education or just search King County Office under Google, you'll see their homepage. You can go on the left-hand side. They're a content provider as well. So go visit their video conferencing section. They've got some wonderful programs that they are doing there. With that being said, I would like to get to the introduction of our esteemed guest. And I know many of you have probably researched his background with the materials that we sent you guys, but just to be a little redundant, I want to go over some things that I think stood out about Hall of Famer Mike Haynes' background. First of all, he was the Patriots' #1 draft pick, first defensive back selected overall back in 1976. Had a sensational rookie season with 8 interceptions and an AFC high 608 punt return yards. His career stats include 46 interceptions for 688 yards and 2 touchdowns. He started and intercepted a pass in Super Bowl, and I'll get this right this time, Mike, Super Bowl 18. I kept saying 28. I don't know why. I must need to go back to school to learn my Roman numerals. But he was selected to 9 Pro Bowls and All-Pro 4 times, and one of the biggest, aside from being inducted in the Hall of Fame, but one of the, I think, the biggest honored things about him is he was selected for the 75th anniversary all-time NFL team. So we're not just talking about going back a year or going back 10 years, the all-decade teams. We're talking about 75th year. And by many people that follow football that are historians might say that Mike Haynes might be the greatest cornerback that ever played in the National Football League. So with that being said, I want to go to our video so you guys can see Mike in action.
Defensive back Mike Haynes played the game of football with unmeasurable quickness and precision. Opponents stood almost no chance against Haynes's suffocating one-on-one coverage. Mike Haynes didn't play the game with a lot of swagger. He just let his ability speak for itself.
And if you can all unmute your mics for a second, then join me in giving class of 1997 enshrinee Mike Haynes. Give him a round of applause, please. This time the pun is intended, Mike. The mic is yours.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us. As Jerry said, I'm here in San Diego, and you are wherever you are. But I want to encourage you to ask as many questions as you can. This is really your time. The benefit that you have in talking with me is basically talking with a former athlete who has been around sports his whole life, a father of 6 kids. So I've had kids at your age and have some your ages now. I'm probably more like the age of your teachers. And so, I have a lot of wisdom like they do. And hopefully I can be a resource for you today and get a lot of questions answered. I'm really looking forward to spending time with you. This webcast is the first time I've done this was today, and really having a lot of fun doing it. And it's great that they can use technology this way to share information. And hopefully this will be something that will just continue in your school, definitely going to continue in my life. So thank you. Look forward to the time with you today.
Okay, and a couple things I didn't bring up. We brought up his on-the-field achievements, but you'll hear from some of those. He's been very distinguished off the field as well, if you will, as he's, he said, the father of 6, but also he was worked his way up as vice president of Callaway Golf. He's been involved in the National Football League as high as a vice president of player development. So you have the case that someone that's really achieved greatness on and off the field. So I encourage you guys today, as you ask your questions, hopefully you've done some research on them, and as we talk about the importance of having good character, and we talk about determination and dedication and persevering through adversity, I encourage you guys. This is one of the greatest football players that ever played the game, being a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You guys have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity here to ask questions of one of the greatest ever, what it took for him to get to that level, and what it took, those same character qualities took to get him at great levels in other areas. So I encourage you guys to ask very thoughtful and thought-provoking questions of Mike. So with that being said, we're going to ask all the groups to leave your mics muted until I call upon you. The first group that we're going to call upon is Chippewa Falls High School, and I actually got a note slid in here. Some of you might have seen my boss. He's sitting off camera here, Joe Horrigan. He just wrote me a note here that says, my best friend from when I was in the Air Force from 1970 to 1974 went to Chippewa Falls High School, Jim Butak. I don't know if that name rings a bell to anyone at Chippewa Falls, but just an interesting note there. But go ahead, Chippewa. If you want to make a comment about that and then ask some questions of Mike, the mic's yours.
Is it on?
Yes.
Okay. How is character important on the field?
That's a very good question, actually. It has actually become more and more important over time. It's important because football is a game that has rules, and you want to make sure that it's played within the rules and played safe. And so having good character actually helps you play by the rules and to maintain a safe environment. If you're playing and you're expecting your opponent to play by the rules and play safe, then you know what to expect. I can't say that that's always been true in the National Football League or in football, but over the years it has become more and more important because you want to be able to play a long time, you want to be able to play in a safe environment, and you want to play where people recognize that those rules are in place for safe reasons and to enhance the game. The Raiders, which is one of the teams that I played on in my 14 years, was one of the teams that probably played in this gray area, I'm going to call it, where maybe ethics weren't as important, where it was more important to use intimidation. And so things like that are no longer tolerated in football. If you've ever watched a game, and if you haven't, I hope you will start. They don't like knocking a player down and then celebrating and doing weird things in a way that is intimidating, because they recognize what that is doing to the game and how it affects the character of our sport. probably the sport that at least I'm aware of that has the highest character is golf. You know, no one really knows if you moved the ball. No one knows if you counted all your strokes. It's pretty much up to you. And football has been moving more and more to a high character game. And you know, guys, it hasn't moved to the point where guys are calling penalties on themselves. And I doubt that will ever happen. But it definitely helps the game be a better game, a safe game, and one where you know that everybody is doing their best to try and play within the rules. Hopefully that answers your question. You know, I'm glad you said this about character, because this is an area I think that I'm in my 50s now, mid-50s, and I think I've been graduating or learning about character and ethics ever, you know, for 50 years. It continues to improve. There are different things that I might have done as a teenager with regarding ethics that there's no way I would think about doing now. No means no now. You know, when I was a teenager, if my parents asked me if I said something or did something, I'd say no, when I did. You know, now I understand the importance of being strong enough to deal with the truth. And that takes a certain amount of character. And I think over the years I've developed that character, but I don't know that I always had it. And they didn't have organizations like what you're involved in, and teachers that were really trying to teach good character like you guys have. And so luckily for me, I've been around good people and been in great institutions like Callaway Golf, as Jerry mentioned, where I worked when I got out of football, and even the National Football League, where I got a chance to develop my character in a safe environment, take chances, and I think as a result of it, I've turned out to be okay. I make better decisions now. Thank you for your question.
To comment on that, and maybe Mike will touch on it on down the road, but his job in the National Football League dealt a lot with players' character in player development. So, you know, that could come up here in just a moment. But let's go ahead and do another question.
Jerry, let me interrupt. Hold on, because I think your viewers will like this, especially that young lady that asked this question. In the National Football League, we have these different programs that the players can go to at some of the great universities: Harvard, Kellogg, Stanford, and Wharton. And in one of these classes, we have a negotiating class. And so in these negotiating class, you know, you break up your groups into teams. And so one of the things that the players would do when they were negotiating, they would not tell the truth. They would lie in their negotiations. And so when we asked them later, they thought that in negotiations you could lie. And so, you know, so a lot of this stuff that I dealt with or struggled with as a young person growing up with ethics is because in my environment, certain things were considered okay. Like, it's okay to lie about this negotiation. Well, we have to actually tell these guys. These are grown men. We have to say, no, guys, hate to tell you this, but you cannot lie in negotiations. If you tell someone that you're going to pay them $150 an hour if they do something, then you better be prepared to pay them $150 an hour. You know, where they're thinking, well, I can just say it, and then later I can say something came up and something changed. You go, no, that's not the way it works. And so this area of ethics is not something that one day, you know, it comes to you or whatever. I think it's a work in progress, and there's different areas in your life where you can deal with ethical decisions a lot easier. But it's not ever easy, and I'm glad that I was in that room when these guys were dealing with that one situation, because I don't know how it all would have turned out. But this is an area that you folks are learning at a real young age, and that you will continue to be dealing with for the rest of your life. And I think I'm proof positive. And I wish I had the good fortune of being in a group or an organization or attending a class or attending a school where this was highlighted and important, and someone would have raised it up in my life a long time ago. So again, thank you for that question.
Chippewa, another question.
So what was your biggest obstacle in becoming a professional football player, and how did you overcome it?
Um, I think my biggest obstacle in becoming a football player probably was myself, number one. First of all, recognizing that I was good enough to be a professional football player. When I was in high school, I didn't think I was good enough to make it to the pros. And matter of fact, even when I was in college, I didn't think I was good enough to make it to the pros. I might have wanted to be a pro football player, but I didn't really think I was fast enough, big enough, strong enough to be a pro football player. So I think I was the biggest obstacle. But fortunately in college, as a freshman, I started on the varsity as a freshman in college, and I got to play with a lot of guys that went on to the pros. And so when they came back in the off season, they said, Mike, you could play for our team right now. I go, you're kidding. And I was, 6'2", 175 pounds. I didn't really feel like I was NFL material. So I started getting in the weight room, gained 20 pounds, got an awful lot faster. So I think I was the biggest obstacle of getting to the pros. As you know, you don't have to have a college degree to get into the pros. And I think that's, sometimes I think that's a negative, because a lot of guys will start working on football and getting stronger and bigger and faster, and then their education kind of takes a back seat to that. And a lot of guys never get back and finish. They never get back on track of finishing their college degree. As in the NFL, overseeing player development, I had a chance to see a lot of statistics, and I can tell you that the guys in the National Football League who have long careers, most of them have their degrees, or they're going back to get it. If you have your degree, statistics show that you're more than likely you're going to make better decisions off the field. You're going to play a lot longer, which means you're going to make a lot more money. Most of the issues that you see and that you read about in football, where the guys are having a conduct issue, 96% of those guys don't have their college degree. They really have trouble making tough decisions, ethical decisions, you might say, in a lot of those situations, and they struggle with it. There's a lot of statistics, people from low socioeconomic situations where only one parent is in the house. Those guys are more challenged with making decisions. Those guys are less likely to graduate from college with a degree. So when we know this information, we can target those guys and work harder with those guys and try and get them to set goals and to understand why it's so important. We can use that information to help us do a better job for them. So I hope I answered that question.
Perfect, thank you. And to add on to what Mike has said, he talked about statistics, to go exactly with what he was saying. Players in the NFL that have completed their 4-year college education typically earn 20 to 30% more money, and their careers last 50% longer. And actually that was a quote that Mike always used that was published through a lot of the NFL stuff, as well as the Players Association website if you go there, to get those statistics. So that was something that I learned from Mike a long time ago. But thank you. Let's go to Texas. From Wisconsin to Texas. Pottsboro, you got a couple questions.
Okay, stand up and come up here and just tell them your first name and then ask your question. Make sure you're in front of the camera. Right here's good.
Okay. What was the hardest decision you had to make?
The hardest decision I had to make? Was there more to that question? Can you ask it again?
Something with that camera.
Even Jerry's frozen.
Yeah. Just say, Jerry, can you see us?
Jerry, can you see us?
Yes, I can see and hear you, and you're moving fine.
Okay.
Okay, there you are. You're back now.
Yep.
We lost the feed on the question.
Okay. Can we go back to Pottsboro? Are you still connected? Okay. Well, we'll skip over Pottsboro. Maybe there are tech difficulties. We'll get back to them in a moment. Wilbur Wright, are you there? Go ahead if you guys have a couple questions. And
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Yes. What was your fallback plan if you could not play football?
Well, my fallback plan was to go into finance. I ended up getting my degree in finance, To be honest with you, in the beginning I did not have a fallback plan. And I thought that once I made it to the NFL that I wouldn't need a fallback plan. But as it turns out that even though you make a good salary, you generally don't make enough money that you don't have to worry about making money for the rest of your life. And so I needed a fallback plan. I shared a story earlier where my locker was right next to a famous college player, and when that player was waived from the team, there was no fanfare, there was no goodbye speeches, there was no watch giving, there was nothing. It was just the coach said he was no longer on the team, and business went on. And so when I saw that they could do that to him, one of the greatest college players of all time, they could definitely do it to me. And so that's when I went back to school and I valued my education, and I started seriously thinking about what I was going to do if my career ended, because I never knew, just like you kids know, if you're an athlete out there and you have some ambition about being a pro athlete, you never know when your dream comes to an end. You know, you may get lucky and make it to the NFL if you're a football player, but the average career in the National Football League is less than 4 years. So how would you like to make all these sacrifices and not hitting the books and not taking other things serious, and then get to the NFL and only play 3 or 4 years? You know, you need to have a fallback plan. So your question is very good. Mine was to make sure I had my degree. That was number one. And number two was to try and find something in the financial area. And so I started looking for things I was passionate in doing, and I've gotten really fortunate. I'm really passionate about helping other people make better decisions, and that's what I'm doing. So thank you for your question.
Go ahead with another one there, Wilbur.
Okay, nice and loud.
Why did you switch teams from the Patriots to the Raiders?
Why did I switch teams? Well, that's a good question. You know, at the time, the Raiders were in Los Angeles, California, and I'm from Los Angeles, California. And so for me, it provided a chance to come home and play football in front of the guys I grew up with, and my family members, and that was important. Back in those days, it was really difficult to go from one team to another. Today, it's a lot easier. They have this what they call free agency. So when your contract is up, you can negotiate with other teams and end up where you want to end up. But for me, it was a little more difficult than that. But in the end, I did get a chance to play in front of my family and friends, and I was very fortunate that happened.
Okay, let's if you can mute your mics there, let's go to Texas. Hightower. Couple questions.
Mr. Haynes, I'm the librarian here at Hightower, and I kind of have a double question. I was fortunate enough to be a friend and classmate of Terry Bradshaw's at Louisiana Tech, and we at Hightower were fortunate enough to have Alonzo Highsmith's son as our quarterback, and he graduated last year. Did you play against either one of these men?
Yes, I believe both of them. Terry Bradshaw, as you know, Hall of Fame quarterback for the Steelers, one of the greatest guys to ever put on an NFL uniform. I have played with him and gotten to know him a little bit over the years, and I'm glad and fortunate that I get a chance to call him my teammate, you know, because we're both in the Hall of Fame. I brought today with me for you to see my bust. You know, this guy, he never gets any older. I love him. He looks great all the time. And so Terry has one of these as well. And yes, I did get to play against Alonzo also.
Do you have another one there, Hightower?
Not at this time.
Okay, all right. Let's go to Mountain Gap. Mountain Gap.
Did you ever decide to quit?
Wow. Did I ever decide to quit? That is a interesting question. I'd have to say that that is probably the toughest decision for a football player or an athlete is, when do you decide to quit? And I had always dreamed that I would be able to make that decision. In football, unfortunately, a lot of times you don't get to make it. Either injury or, someone, they just think you can't play anymore. Or, just circumstances change. So my last year in the National Football League, I did not know it was my last year. I thought I was going to continue to play. And so it just didn't work out the way I wanted. And so to say I quit was the toughest thing, toughest decision I ever made, because I felt like I could still play. But I was 37 years old, and I had a young family, and I wanted to start doing things with them, and so might as well get started, and so I did. But that was probably one of the most difficult decisions I ever made.
And another one there,
Next
Penny?
question. Yes.
When you were young, why did you want to start playing football?
I just loved the sport. I loved all sports when I was young. The first time I put on a uniform, I'll never forget it because it was on Christmas Day, and my mom and my stepfather and my brother and I went across the street in an open field and put on our, my brother and I had on our brand new Ram uniforms. We were in Los Angeles, and played with my mom. I actually hit my mom with my helmet and hurt my mom. We had to rush her off to the emergency room. That's one of the reasons I'll never forget it. When I was really young, baseball was America's sport, not football. And I loved baseball. I played Little League baseball from first grade and played all the way through. And I really never started playing football until I was a 10th grader in high school. Because I was pretty fast and a good athlete. I could catch, I could throw. I made the team, but I really never learned to tackle until I got to college. That's an interesting question. I loved all sports when I was young. I tried to play all of them. Soccer, which is a big sport now with a lot of kids, wasn't that popular when I was a kid. And so I really wonder, with lacrosse and a lot of these other sports now that have become more popular, it might have been interesting to see how I would have done at those. But we had basically baseball, football, track, and basketball.
Okay, thank you, Mountain Gap. And let's the folks at Lakewood, we want to talk about persevering. They've persevered through some technological snafus, I guess we can say. So the folks in Lakewood, hopefully you're still there. Go ahead and ask a couple questions, North Carolina.
Yes. What was your mindset when you were when your NFL game?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat it again? You kept breaking up. Say it again.
What was your mindset during your NFL games?
My mindset?
Yeah, your mindset. What was your mindset?
My mindset was that I have prepared to be the best football player I can be today. I had this little routine. I prayed before every single football game. Every single football game from the time I was in college until I ended my professional career. I prayed that God would allow me to be the best football player I can be today. That I would not fear any other man or any other situation that I would be faced with today. And that when I walked off the football field today, I can say, no matter what happened, that I gave it my best effort. And so I could have gotten beat for a touchdown, I could have missed a tackle, or I could have made a big interception and made a touchdown. Either way, good or bad, I wanted to walk off the field saying that I did the best I could. And doing the best I could didn't mean that it was always going to work out in my favor. I'm one of these guys that believes that you can do the best you can on a football field or a basketball court or a volleyball court or lacrosse field or whatever and get blown off the field by your opponent. because you can't control all the other environments or all the other things. I can only control the way I felt. So that's what I did. That's a good question. But my mindset, came, the fear would be in any sport of getting hurt, right? Right? And so I knew I was in good shape. I knew I could, I could feel comfortable in my conditioning, but I wanted to walk off the field saying, I left it right there. If I never played another game, if they showed the game film of that game, they would see a guy that went 100% and gave it his all. And that was my mindset. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Go ahead with another one, Lakewood.
I can't hear it again.
She's
Can
coming.
somebody
Hold
repeat?
on.
She's coming to the front.
Oh.
What's the difference from the game now than it was when you used to play?
Well, they changed the rules. Actually, the real big difference is the quarterback position. When I first came in the league, there would be more running plays. Like you would have a running back who would run the ball 30 to 35 times a game, and the only time they would pass would be in third long situations or on first down when they're trying to catch you thinking it's going to be a run. They try to make you think run and they're going to throw a pass. Now there's a lot of teams you can expect a pass every single play, and the surprise play is a run. So that's a little different. The league, the National Football League, changed the rules so that it would be more enjoyable to the fans. So they changed it where it would be more scoring, more of a wide open game. They also changed the rules where you can't not hit a player just to hit him. Like, in the old days, they would throw a pass, and the guy would reach up to catch the pass, and the ball would be so high that there's no way the guy's going to catch it. Well, the defensive player could hit the guy really hard and try to intimidate the guy so that he would feel like, boy, if the ball really was coming, I would have got killed on that situation. Well, the league has changed. They put rules in place where that doesn't happen anymore. It's a safer game. It's a better game, I believe, because it's so much safer, and intimidation is not part of the game. So there are a lot of differences. That's one. Probably the biggest difference is the money they get paid to play the game. That's the biggest difference. I wish I was playing today. I was drafted, as Jerry said, in the first round. I was the 5th player drafted overall. I had a signing bonus of $100,000. A lot of you guys might think that's a lot of money. My first year's salary was $66,000. Woo! That's a lot of money, right? No. If I was playing today, I'd probably get a $10 million signing bonus. I'd make $1 million a year. So if I played 14 years, over the period of my whole 14-year career, I might have made, $80 million. In a 14-year period, 14 years, I probably made less than $3 million. So thank you for that question.
Okay, thank you, Lakewood. We'll ask all the groups to make sure to keep their mics muted. I did see, I wonder if Pottsboro, did you guys get connected back in? I want to go to you guys with a chance to ask a question or two. If you guys got connected again. Pottsboro, are you there?
Yes, we're here, and we do have a couple of questions.
Okay, all right. I saw you guys had some technical difficulties there.
I don't think they heard you.
We can hear you.
Okay.
We can hear you.
What was the hardest decision you had to make in your career or in school, and why?
Well, the hardest decision I had to make in my career was when to quit. That was the hardest. Was it time to hang up the cleats? That's a hard decision. In school, the hardest probably decision I made was not to pursue a master's degree. When I was with the Patriots, while I was working there in the off season, I did a lot of internships, And so I was at this place called State Street Research and Management. It's a company that now manages $300 billion. I mean, it's just an incredible company. I was going to go to Harvard and get an MBA, but when I got traded to the Raiders, it didn't make sense to go back to Harvard, and also didn't know that I was going to play another 7 years. I thought after playing 7 years in the NFL that my career was winding down, but when I had a rebirth in my career when I came to Los Angeles and joined the Raiders and ended up playing another 7 years. And so that was a tough decision not to pursue my master's degree. And you know, I don't have any regrets now because things have kind of worked out. But sometimes I wonder how my life would be different if I had a master's degree.
Okay, Pottsboro, you have another one? Glad you guys could get connected again.
Okay, we have one more, I think.
How involved are your kids in sports, and do you think that any of them will pursue an athletic career?
My kids are all involved in sports, except for I have an 8-year-old daughter. She's the only one that isn't, but she has a good excuse, and I won't tell you what it is. But all of my kids are really into sports. My 2 boys they play Pop Warner football, they play basketball. I work with them in track, you know, because I think it's important to learn how to run and how to run properly. You know, I was a guy who never had a track coach until I went to a real track coach until I got to college. So I learned how to run with technique and all that. So I use all the skills and all the knowledge that I have about sports. I try to transition that, you know, right into my kids, or transfer that right into my kids. This year I coached basketball. I never knew much about basketball, but because I wanted my kids to have a good experience, and the area where we live, they were short in coaches, and so if they didn't have they needed to find 2 more coaches, or there are going to be some kids that didn't get to play basketball. And so I volunteered to be a basketball coach and had a lot of fun. I wish I could tell you I won the championship, but there's a learning curve. And so I had a good experience, and the kids who were on our team had a good experience. And I think that's what it's all about. So all of my kids played sport. I have 6 kids. 5 of them were very active in sports.
Thank you, Pottsboro. And just before we go back to the top, to Chippewa, you know, I'd like to chime in here, Mike, just for a moment. Something you've talked about in all the conferences, but persevering through adversity. And you've had to persevere on the field. You've had to persevere through your careers, you know, with the National Football League and with Callaway, and in your relationships with friends and family. I mean, you deal with adversity all the time. But you had a especially scary moment in your life a couple of years ago. Why don't you share with them how your ability to persevere and take on these challenges head on, how that helped you deal with that moment in your life a couple of years ago?
Well, a couple of years ago at the Pro Football Hall of Fame is in Canton, Ohio. Hopefully, if you haven't been there, you'll go there at some point. But there, all the Hall of Famers come back every year. Well, the NFL and an organization called the American Urological Association, they offered these free screenings, which is a screening is like a test that you could go and you know, and get a free evaluation, you might say, a health evaluation for prostate cancer. And so I went, and lo and behold, found out that I had prostate cancer. And so I learned an awful lot about prostate cancer, awful lot of new words entered into the Haynes vocabulary because of my experience with prostate cancer. But one of the things I didn't know is that 1 in 6 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer in their lifetime. 1 in 6. Take a look around the room, guys. You know, 1 in 6. If you're African American, it's even higher. 1 in 2.5. So every other guy is going to likely be at risk of getting prostate cancer. So that was an alarming statistic, an epidemic, you might say, that I didn't realize and didn't know much about. And I became the spokesperson because I wanted to try and change that. Most men, when they find out about it, they may not be in the same states that I was in. I found out so early that it was easy to cure, easy to take care of. But if you're not on top of it, if you're not aware of these things, you might find out at a different stage, and you might beat it. But I basically had a simple surgery, and I'm fine now. I didn't have to go through radiation and chemo and all these different things and have a battle on my hands, and who knows how that battle is going to end up. So I became the spokesperson because I want men and women to understand, what this is, and to catch it early and encourage other people to get out there and start talking about it. My big goal is to normalize it. When we first started these conversations this morning with Jerry, he referred to it as the C, the C word, because there are a lot of people who are afraid of cancer. They're afraid of talking about these health issues, and I'm trying to normalize it. I think it should be part of your everyday dialogue, and that you should be talking to your parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles and friends about these health issues, and that hasn't been the case, and I want to try and change that, and I've got a lot of Hall of Famers that have helped me, that are helping me with that, and current NFL players as well, and owners, congressmen, senators, people are trying to help me with this, there's a lot of information. You can go to the knowyourstats.org. It's a website that we have that can help people find resources in their area to deal or to have to find out more information about it. Jerry, thank you for giving me a chance to say that. But for you kids out there, you need to ask your parents. Ask them, are we, Dad, Mom, are you guys taking your health seriously? Those are your greatest resources. And so if they're not taking care of themselves, maybe you can encourage them and help them, give them a little assistance in making sure that they're going to be around for a long time.
Thank you for sharing your story, Mike. Let's go to, we'll try to go from one question from each site. We'll try and make it around one more time to all the groups. Let's go back to Chippewa. Do you have a question for Mr. Haynes here?
Okay, we're back on. Thank you. Bye.
Hi, Chippewa.
Hi, how do you feel that you have demonstrated the 6 pillars of character in your life?
Oh, don't sit down yet. Give me the 6.
Well, I know them, but okay, well.
I don't have them memorized either, so.
Trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship.
Well, they are all characteristics that I think that you really need to have to be a good leader, and I think they're all important. I think I show every day in my life that all of those characteristics, and hopefully you folks have. I don't have them memorized, and maybe I should have them memorized. In my kids' school, these characteristics, they have a song and everything. This is really a big deal. And I wish I had that in my life for 50 years. I haven't. I'm still learning an awful lot. So I think I've been fortunate to be around a lot of great leaders that have great character. And when I'm trying to be like them, and believe it or not, I'm in my 50s, and there's still people that I still want to be like. Still people I say, gosh, I really like that guy, or I really like that woman, and I want to try and put what they're doing. I want to get a little of that into my life. And for the most part, those are character issues. So you said trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship, right? Okay, cool, thank you. They're growing in importance in my life too.
That's a heck of a memory there, Mike. That's awesome. I will tell you.
You have to have a great memory to be in the NFL, Jerry.
That's right. And I will tell you guys, the teachers that are there, when I sent the materials to Mike, he did review over them and actually had some questions for me about some of those 6 pillars as well. So he was prepared. Unfortunately, just eluding them, I guess, at this particular time. She stumped the Schwab, I guess you could say. But anyhow, let's go to Wilbur Wright. Thank you, Chippewa. Wilbur Wright.
I think it's us. Thanks enough. Well, are there any times in your life you think about giving up?
Oh, that's good.
So far, no. Let me go back. In elementary school, I used to think about giving up. But as I've gotten older, I realize that that is probably not the best choice. It's not really over. The opportunity to get better, or the opportunity for something, a dream to come true, it's not over until it is absolutely over, right? And I think when I was in elementary school, some of these things we were talking about, responsibility as some of these character traits. My parents would put me in control of some of my cousins. I don't want Mike, I don't want them to watch television, stuff like that. And I was so afraid of my stepfather that there were plenty of times in my life when I wished life was over and I wouldn't have to deal with this man, But as I've gotten older, I've gotten braver. I've taken on more responsibility and more responsibility for my actions. And I realized that it's not really over until it's over. I can get better. My life can change if I make a plan. If I sit down, oh gosh, here's the one thing that I learned. There may be somebody out there right now that is feeling like there is nobody else in the world that feels like them. This is the way I was. All right? I felt like there's nobody else out there that feels the way I feel. And when I was a rookie in the National Football League, I got invited to go to a meeting that the guys were having on Thursdays, and they were all getting together, and they were talking about spiritual things. And I kind of got brave, and I raised my hand, and I talked about something, thinking that nobody else in the room has ever walked in my shoes. And I found out there's like 6 guys on the team that walked in my shoes before. So the question that you're asking, feeling like maybe there's no one else out there that feels like you, my guess is there are tons of people out there that feels like you, and they wish they had the courage to raise their hand and say, what's it like? Have you ever done this? It changes, one person can change a lot of people, make a big difference. So for me, I used to get in a lot of trouble when I was in elementary school. I really did. And so I used to pray that, that this problem would go away. That when I got home, my stepfather was not going to find out about it. And I used to wish that, something, and as I got older, I just started making better decisions. That helped, right? I started understanding, what my consequences are going to be. And all of them were it was always better to deal with my consequence than it was not to. And to continue to try and get better. And to continue to try and work things out. And I never give up. Never give up.
Okay, and I see we got about 4 or 5 minutes left, so we'll try to get to each of the last 4 schools so you can ask one remaining question. Thank you, Wilbur Wright, for the question. Let's go to Hightower. Do you guys have any more questions? And one more. Hightower, are you there? Okay, well, let's go to Mountain Gap. Do you guys have any further questions? I know you guys.
What qualities do you look for in a good teammate?
Oh, good question. For the most part, someone that wants to get better, that wants to share their information, that will pick you up when you're down, and you'll pick him up when he's down. Hopefully, the quality is that they're giving their best effort. For me, I don't want to be on a team where it's just I'm only out here because mom wants me out here or because dad wants me out here. I want my teammate to be a guy or girl that wants to be out there and wants to work to get better, because that's going to give us the best opportunity to have a winning team. And for me, that's what sports are about. It's you play because you want to work on winning, and you learn certain things about winning. Like, what does it take to win? Well, you got to have a plan. You have to work out. You got to prepare. You got to know stuff about your opponent. You got to, hopefully part of winning is having a way to celebrate your wins. And losing, somebody's got to lose, so you can't win every game. So you understand that that's part of the game, but you evaluate or you analyze why you lost, and say, okay, well, if we had to play this game again, what would we do different? Would the coach call the same plays? Would I overplay this person or that person? What would I do differently? And so it's just a great opportunity to learn, and you want to be with other players, have other players on your team and coaches that feel like that they want to continue to get better and learn from every experience. And if you find a teammate that doesn't want to do that, maybe you ought to talk to them about doing something else, and getting somebody on your team that shares that feeling. So I know that's a little bit hard, because a lot of young people, their parents think it's good just for you to go out there and be on a team, and just put on a uniform and go out there and be with Johnny or be with Sally or whatever. I'm not one of those guys, and and I might catch some grief for that. I think that no matter what age you are, you should be learning how to play the sport, understanding the rules of the sport, getting great exercise, but learning how to win, how to have a plan to win, and understanding strategy to win, because that's what's going to really help you in life. Just being out there running around, that's part of it. That's exercise. And some people, that might be their goal. I just want to get exercise. I don't really care about winning. But if you want to play on my team, I want you to care about winning also.
And that to add on to what Mike's saying, that same thing can be said in all elements of life. And Mike surrounds himself, I'm sure, with great people. The NFL surrounds itself with great people that are committed to a goal or winning, if you will. Here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, we have a group of individuals that are committed to making the Pro Football Hall of Fame the biggest success that we can be on not only just a local scale, but on a national and an international scale. And we have a lot of folks on our team that we feel are really good at doing that. So with that being said, let's go to Lakewood. We got two more schools. I'd like to get a question from each, and we just got a few minutes left. So Lakewood, go ahead and shoot away if you're still there. One more question.
What are some of the good things you do to play, like charities or organizations?
I'm sorry, repeat it. I heard charities and organizations, but I didn't hear the rest of the question.
Hold on just a second. I'm sorry,
Okay.
announcements are going off.
What are some of the good things you've done with your money, like charities or organizations for children?
Some of the things you've done with your money, charities, organizations.
You just say with my money?
Like Oprah, how she be donating stuff to Africa? What have you done?
I've actually I've donated a lot of time and money to charity. Actually, for me, it started in high school and college. In terms of donating my time and money. One of the things that I've learned as an NFL player is oftentimes donating my time is just as good, if not more important, than donating the money. Because it helps, a lot of times it helps elevate the cause or the importance of the cause because they have celebrity athletes there. So that's a good question. That is something that the National Football League takes a lot of pride in. And as you'll know, we have a lot of organizations at every NFL club that they get out in the community, they talk to young people, they talk to foundations, they get involved in a lot of things to make the world better. So I've done a lot, actually, in that regard.
Okay,
Thanks
thank you.
for your question.
Thank you, Lakewood. And let's go the very last question. If Lakewood, I don't know who that. Okay, thank you.
Does she have another question? Oh.
Let's go to Pottsboro for the very last question.
I was wondering if any of us have any families or friends that are dealing with cancer, what the best way to deal with it would be.
That is a great question. I don't even know if I can really get into it and do it justice, but I think the best way is to not talk around it. Go to the person and ask them how can you best help them. There are, you can go to a website, knowyourstats.org. That's the website that we have, and you can actually ask that question. How can I best support, my loved one or my friend or family member that has cancer, and they can give you a lot of advice. But from my own personal experience, I would say the best thing that friends did for me is that they talked to me about it. They asked me how was I feeling. They asked me what was I afraid of. They asked me how could they help. And as a result of that, it has really changed my life, because the men and women that actually walked up to me or called me and said, hey, I have cancer too, and I want to be a resource for you. What is it that you need help? It made such a tremendous difference in my life that it's one of the main reasons I became the spokesperson, because I say, I don't care who you are, I don't care where you are, if you call me about your prostate cancer situation, I will do my best to try and help you feel better about your situation. If you need resources, I will use my resources to help you to get your question answered. Because it's important. The most important thing is that they don't want to feel like they're going through this in the dark or alone, and that someone is trying to help them understand what they're going through or deal with it. So I really appreciate that question, and that is something that I think a lot of people don't do. They don't do anything, and that's and we need to normalize these things. Talk about them. Let's get it on the table. In a comfortable, confidential way where you can do that with somebody. So I really appreciate that question, and it is one of the areas of this charitable organization that we have, this campaign that we have, where we're launching in San Francisco in about 3 weeks a new element of our campaign, which is called support. Because for the most part, all the campaigns have been, make sure your person, your loved one gets screened. Well, what happens if they have it? What are you doing if they have it? And so Freddie Bolitnikoff, who is another Hall of Famer, who played for the Raiders of his entire career, he also is a prostate cancer survivor, and he's helping us kick off that element, because it is so important. It may be more important than anything else, is the way that person and the people around them deal with the cancer. So you don't want them to feel like they don't have resources and people that really care. You want those people to show and share, make them feel comfortable that no matter what happens, that they're going to be there with them.
And Mike brings up
question. That's awesome.
Yeah, great question, because it's something that touches home with me as well. Because to share with you guys, I have a wife that has MS, and we just recently found out about a year ago. So, and she's found out some friends, some support groups on top of being her husband as well, and those are things that we are dealing with as well. So to hear Mike share those things with what he went through it helps me as well. So I appreciate that advice as well, Mike. I see we just have like 30 seconds left in the bridge, so hopefully it doesn't get disconnected. In 30 seconds or less, Mike, anything else you'd like to cover with them and with the groups that are connected?
Well, I do want to show all the athletes out there that, after playing football for 21 years, I only have one Super Bowl ring. I wish I had several like a lot of guys, but this is mine. This is from Super Bowl 18, and I wish I could share that with you. It's a lot of diamonds, and the girls like it more than the guys, believe it or not, because it's such a beautiful piece of jewelry.
A lot of bling.
Yeah, a lot of bling. And of course, this is my bust next to me that I'm also proud of. But I feel very fortunate to be in the Hall of Fame, and I'm so glad that my being in the Hall of Fame has allowed me to spend time with you today to share my experiences. And if I've changed one person's life today, this was well worth it for me. And if there's anything I can do for you, or any of us Hall of Famers can do for you, I hope that you'll pick up your pen and write a letter and ask for help or ask for support. And I hope it doesn't end up falling on deaf ears or a negative situation for you. But we're here for you, so take control and be proactive, ask questions, and don't ever stop trying to get better.
Okay, well, if everybody can unmute your mics and join me in saying thank you, and Give it a round of applause for Hall of Famer Mike Haynes.
Thank you.